Welcome everyone to Veganic Gardeners Question Time. I'm Giles Bryant from World Healing Project, and do we have a fantastic show for you today? Yes, we do, people. Well, this show is produced by the Vegan Organic Network. Wonderful people who've been promoting veganic growing, which means no chemical inputs, no farmed animal inputs, since 1996. And today we are joined by a fantastic panel. And you know what? We've had more questions submitted for this show than ever in my 3 years of presenting the show. So thank you so much, everyone. If we don't get to your questions, apologies. We will do our best indeed. Now, I say it every time, but you know, there's never been in history a time that is so important of how we grow our food and looking at food systems. So where I am in sunny Suffolk here, we've got a beautiful veganic garden, which is a closed system, which we're just using things from this area, using plants to grow more plants, to be healthy and strong. We don't need to import chemicals. We don't need to import animal inputs to grow healthy food. And people are doing this all across the world. So it's such an exciting time. It really is indeed. Interesting news coming up as well, which will be announcement soon by Von, about this fantastic competition, a video competition about your veganic garden if you've got it on the Von map. So more details we'll get into later. Anyway, enough of my chit chat. Oh, one more thing about chit chat. Growing Green International. If you've read your latest copy of the magazine, when you join Von as a member, you get 2 copies of this magazine a year. It is brilliant. And my favorite article here is Nurturing and Growth, a Veganic School Garden in Suffolk. Yes, indeed, because we've helped to build it thanks to Von. Well, I'm going to introduce the panel now. And first off, I'll tell you what, 3 of my favorite experts today. Love them all. They're fantastic. Now, first of all is Than. He's a veganic horticultural tutor, forest gardener, forager, and all-round plant advocate. Oh, yes, he is. He's got a formal background in sustainable food policy research before he turned to the land. And recently, he's set up the Nourish the Wild CIC, which focuses on creating and teaching about compassionate, resilient food systems, and most of all, healing our relationship with the earth and all the beings. He runs veganic food growing courses, workshops, and foraging events in the northeast of England, as well as things in London. Beautiful new website there, nourishthewild.co.uk, and you can find Than on Instagram at Nourish the Wild. Than, how you doing, brother?
Very well, Giles. How are you doing?
Oh, fantastic. I'm so pleased to see you. So we corresponded a few months ago, and you said, Giles, I'd love to be on. I'm currently in Sri Lanka.
Yes, that was true. We are back now. We came, me and my partner came back at the beginning of May. I mean, it was quite a journey. I haven't been there in about 8 years. We sort of travel there very, very infrequently. But we saw, I mean, the full scope of growing agriculture, what it was. I wanted to really understand what was going on, get to know the plants that are growing there, even though I'm from there. I mean, lived there for 4 years. I know the plants of this country quite well, but there I know very, very little. So it was almost like a whirlwind tour. So we connected with lots of people, quite incredible. And we also quite sad in some ways, seeing the impact of cash crop agriculture, these huge monocultures of tea and other crops which are devastating the country, when really it should be a paradise, climatically, many ways. And there also, it's very hard, believe it or not, to find clean, organic food, certainly veganic. It's literally, I think there's one farm project which is about to start, which is also listed on the Von map, actually.
Amazing. Super. And Than, just quickly, tell us about the things you've got going on with Nourish the Wild.
We are continuing our veganic courses in the northeast, where we're based. That's the northeast of England. Last year was an inaugural one. In this part of I was teaching before in London, but before we moved here, workshops, foraging ourselves, and trying to live lightly. That's what it's all about. And I say, all this teaching, but actually it's about. So we're still developing our forest garden. It's the 2nd year now. 2.5 years actually, so it's taking shape slowly. So that's
well, we look forward to you sharing your wisdom throughout the show, Than. Thank you very much. Okay, the next panelist up is one of my favourites, Rhonda-T. What a lovely lady. Do you know, Rhonda-T's been a devoted gardener with more than 4 decades of experience, and I don't think she looks old enough. She's cultivated a variety of crops. Now, in 2016, she founded Terra Farm Sanctuary in the USA, which is a not-for-profit dedicated to providing a safe and permanent home for rescued farm animals. And as well as that, Rhonda-T, how'd you do it? She's running a veganic farm there. She actively promotes veganism, veganic farming practices. The website is terrafarmsanctuary.org. It's a certified veganic farm, Terra. We love her. Rhonda-T, are you there?
Hello, Giles. Happy spring.
Oh, happy spring, Rhonda-T. How are you, my dear?
I'm well. I'm weather's warming, and I'm getting ready to go outside and dig in some soil and smell the smells. And yeah, I'm very excited for the new season.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? They say that gardeners live longer than non-gardeners. There's many reasons for that, but one of them is because we're looking forward to the next season. Now, I don't know about you, Rhonda-T, but it seems to have been quite a long winter. And I tell you what, seeing that blossom, it just brings us alive, doesn't it?
It does. And hearing the birds and seeing the new sprouts, it's amazing. It gives us all hope.
It really does. So how are things at the Terra Farm Sanctuary and your veganic project?
Things are going well, starting a whole bunch of new seedlings. I have a new project. It's not a new project, but it has been ramped up, where I grow veganic seedlings for the community, and I share them freely. I mentor people in veganic gardening. I help people start from nothing in growing their own food and being more sustainable, and advocate for veganism at the same time. So just ramping that up, and it's going real well.
Amazing. Thank you, Rhonda-T. Well, we look forward to your wisdom. And I think we've actually got a question about seedlings coming up. So that's very good indeed. And last but certainly not least, I love this lady. She's a superstar, is Meg Kelly, one of the leading experts in growing and the communication of veganic growing. Meg learned veganic permaculture to become more self-sufficient while sticking to her values of being a vegan. She's practiced veganics for many years in community gardens, concrete jungles, and up in the hills. She runs the excellent Learn Veganic online course and co-founded the Veganic Agriculture Network. And the website to check out is learnveganic.com. Meg, are you there?
Hey there, Giles. Great to see you.
It's lovely to see you too, Meg. You look radiant. How's life?
Life is good. Yeah, we've just been finishing up one of our course sessions in Learn Veganic. We met so many wonderful people, some of whom are longtime veganic gardeners, others who are just starting their first veganic gardens. And we're really, really excited to be starting a new course session of the Learn Veganic Gardening course in the upcoming weeks. So if anyone's interested in finding out more about that, they can go to learnveganic.com. And I just wanted to say, for anyone who is a follower of Vaughn, you're welcome to save $15 on the course with the code VAUGHN15 at learnveganic.com. So if you head on over there, you can get all the info. But the cool thing about this spring course that's coming up is it actually includes 6 months of Q&As from April to September. So it's an opportunity to have questions answered during the gardening season, but also to connect with other veganic growers. And so anyway, we'd be very, very happy to have, such a wonderful community, and thrilled to be here today to be discussing with you too, Giles.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So how are things in Canada? Has the snow gone?
I am actually seeing snow out of my window. It is snowing today, and I think we still have half a meter of snow on the ground, but it'll disappear sometime in April, I presume.
Yeah. One of the things I love, Meg, is it's like you're saying about that connection, the connection with like-minded people all around the world. I mean, even today, Thani's back from Sri Lanka, you're in Canada, Rhonda-T's in North America, I'm in sunny Suffolk in England. It's a brilliant thing, and it's really happening, isn't it? That this veganic thing is really taking off.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's wonderful, and even with the Vegan Organic Network's World Map, that's another wonderful way to connect with people. It's wonderful to see people adding themselves to the map, and that Vaughn has been doing some interviews with people on the map recently too. If anyone hasn't added themselves to vaughnmap.org yet, I'd suggest it. It just takes a few minutes to join. And you can also go and add some photos of your gardens too. That's one of the lovely things. It's a way that people can really show what they've been doing and share that with people around the world.
It is absolutely a beautiful thing. And it's a very good reminder for me, Meg, because we've got our garden here in sunny Suffolk registered. But one thing I learned when we did the call was that you can register more than one garden.
Absolutely.
And because we've started our local school veganic growing with the polytunnel donated from Vaughan and with our new forest garden, I need to get some of those photos up. So tomorrow morning, another little job for me. Meg, thank you so much, my dear. I tell you what, Maestro, why don't we get into it? Because we couldn't put all the questions on. I'm sorry, we couldn't put all the questions on because we just had so many. The show would have been a 5-hour special and I've got a little kid to take to bed, but we put a selection. So if yours wasn't selected, then, I don't know what to say. We tried. All right, Maestro, please. The first question. Dr. Nair, our friend Dr. Nair, the man who sent us 20 questions. If veganic farming avoids animal inputs completely, stock animal inputs, Dr. Nair, how do we sustainably maintain long-term soil fertility without degrading nutrient balance? Well, it's a great question. And panel, who'd like to have a little bash at this first? How do we maintain soil fertility if we're not banging chemicals or, blood, fish and bone on the soil?
Yeah, I can jump in. I think one of the most important things is to encourage your soil biology because soil has a lot of minerals in it. There already tends to be a lot of potassium there. There already tends to be a lot of phosphorus there, but it's in the mineral content. It's in the rocks. And it's really through having better soil biology that the bacteria and the fungi and other organisms in the soil will essentially be able to create organic acids that are going to break down the rock a bit and make those nutrients available to other plants. So as an example, there's also some plants that we can use that can help make some of those nutrients accessible that are already in our soil. Buckwheat is a good example, and buckwheat is particularly good at mining certain nutrients and making them available to other plants. And you can use nitrogen fixing plants like legumes to get nitrogen from the air. So if we concentrate more than anything on getting nitrogen from the air, getting phosphorus and potassium and calcium from what's already in our soil through improving our soil biology, and then just trying to increase our organic matter by growing biomass and feeding it back to the soil. There's places like, Ian Tolhurst's farm in the United Kingdom has done an excellent job of demonstrating how, you can have a self-sufficient system where the soil quality just improves and improves and improves over the years without actually bringing in nutrients.
Oh, thank you, Maestro. Bless you. Than, it's something that we commonly come across, isn't it? When people are new to veganics, maybe Dr. Nair is, God bless you, Dr. Nair, where people think, well, how can you actually do it?
Yeah, absolutely. There's only two fallacies in this world, folks, in terms of this. One is that we have to eat meat to eat animals to survive. The second being that somehow animals are fundamental to the fertility cycle, the fertility processes, both of which are not true. The idea that animals are actually creating fertility it's not true, because plants are the ultimate source of, they're the ones who are actually generating that fertility. Animals and ourselves, even if we're sort of composting it, we're recycling. Originally, as Megan said beautifully, it's actually the soil biology, is plants in association with all those organisms in the soil, particularly the bacteria and fungi that are actually working to build the fertility in that soil. Now, whenever you use animal manure, I suppose in terms of the main animal inputs that you think of in the traditional organic growing or even in smaller scale is manure. Those animals are eating the plants to get that nutrition, some of which they'll take for themselves and they'll poop it out, and that creates a pocket of fertility, which is then a sort of which we can use to grow plants. However, we forget that actually they're only getting that through the plants in the first place.
Yeah.
Secondly, the other thing is things like bone meal or blood meal and things like that, which is again for phosphorus and calcium, which are found in the animal bones, which are ground up, but they're not producing that phosphorus. They're getting it from the plants again, which in turn get it from the soil biology. Right? Phosphorus is part of that the mineral cycle. It's part of a terrestrial cycle. Which is in the soil. So plants, particularly plants with certain what we call kind of certain rooting depths and things, will mine that phosphorus through the help of fungi. I mean, in an infinitely fascinating process. So we need to go back to the source, not the middleman, as we will say this time and time again in all of the episodes. But yeah.
Thanks, man. Now, Rhonda-T, you are a devoted animal lover. And I suppose one of the things that we can say to, why the veganic is important is because we're just bypassing a whole lot of cruelty and a whole lot of pollution and a whole lot of toxicity, quite frankly.
Absolutely. There's no need to use that middleman, so to speak. All of the nutrients we need are in the plants. And once we get done harvesting and we get done with taking what we need from the plants and that we grow, we just compost them and put the remainder of the nutrients back into the soil for the soil organisms, and we can start again. Crop rotation is important so nothing gets depleted, but it's a system. It's cyclical. We just keep putting it back into the soil, and we grow and put it back into the soil, and that's how the forest does it. And we don't need to go spread poop around in the forest. So I think we need to learn from nature. It's got a good thing going.
100%. We've got to learn from nature. It's got a good thing going. I need a bumper sticker on my car with that message. Maestro, please, the next question. Where are we? That's David. David, you sent a lovely message. Thank you. When you were choosing green manure, how do you know the correct types for your soil or climate? Is it a good idea to sow multi-species, focusing on a variety of root depths and spread? Really, it's not my expertise at all about the green manures. Any of you guys got any input for David? What could he do?
One thing I just would like to mention is that Helen Athow, in her relatively new book about the ecological farm, she actually has a wonderful chart about which green manures and which living mulches work especially well, for example, with acidic soils or alkaline soils or dry soils or in certain types of climates and things like that. So I would suggest, if you have an opportunity, to look at Helen Athow's book, The Ecological Farm. And she really uses a multi-species method for her cover crops and living mulches and green manures. Between Helen Athow and Ian Tolhurst, I would say those are the two main folks to look at if you would like advice about what they're doing for multi-species techniques. But one thing I will say is that when you're first starting out, you might actually want to concentrate on perhaps a single species or just a couple of things together, because you might want to learn how to work with one particular living mulch or green manure before sort of complicating it. So for example, something like an annual clover or buckwheat might be easier to learn how to work with, whereas if you're mixing 5 or 6 things together, it might be nice to have a bit of an understanding of each of those before mixing them together. But just to say, the idea of multi-species, it can work from the perspective of different root depths. So for example, grasses are really good at holding in soil so it doesn't erode. So something like oats or rye can play that role, whereas something like alfalfa or daikon radish is going to go really deep, and clover is going to be a nitrogen fixer. So there's a lot to be said for having something multi-species to support the soil life more and to fulfill different roles. But I'd also say taking things perhaps step by step and a little bit slowly, or doing a variety of different experiments can be good over time so that you can learn how to work with these plants.
Beautiful. What a fantastic answer. Dan or Rhonda-T, do we need to go any further with that, or shall we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I was just oh, sorry.
You go for it, Dan.
Yeah, as in observe in your area. What I always think, I like to see what are the wild sort of species that are growing in your sort of local landscape. So typically certain families of plants, like your legumes, your pea family, and there'll always be wild peas in pretty much most ecosystems on this planet. So you can have a look and sort of incorporate them a little bit. Of course, you need to think about how competitive they are in terms of suppressing weeds and things, but it all adds to the diversity in your growing space. So yeah, a bit of wider observation is also quite useful, which is hardy, which is not, that sort of thing. Are you going to plant in situ with your with the green manure in, or are you going to sort of dig it, chop it all down and dig it, sort of incorporate it back in? All of these are considerations. But yeah, as Megan said, I'd say going with your initial with one species is a good place to start. But overall, I'd say diversity is resilience. More diversity, the better in any system, as you sort of go further into the future.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dan. And Rhonda-T, you wanted to add something, my dear? No? Okay. No, I'd just say that what I'd be doing, guys, is the nettles in one of our raised beds. Oh, yeah. You know when you get stung by the spring equinox nettle? Oh, well, anyway, I'm harvesting those nettles in many ways. I'm making teas. I'm putting them in I made a sagaloo. Fan, you might have liked this. I made a sagaloo the other day. Didn't have any spinach. Not going to the shops to get spinach. Chopped some nettles up. Oh, yes, I did. And the roots as well. Very highly medicinal. So that's my green manure. I know it's a bit of a weird one, but I'm going to make a tincture with those roots. Maestro, please. Third question. Where are we going? That's Lucy. Thank you, Lucy. Now, I've just watched the fascinating first half of the video on Ian Tolhurst's farm, which is on YouTube, by the way. And I know that he rotates tomato plants in his greenhouses because he's got big greenhouses. As a gardener with just one greenhouse, should I only grow tomatoes in my greenhouse every other year? And if so, what crop would I grow in the tomato for a year? I suppose Lucy's concerned about, the build-up of the blight and the pests and things. So who wants to give a little stab at Lucy with a greenhouse?
I can talk about that.
Yes, please, Rhonda-T.
Yeah. With one greenhouse, I would maybe even consider interplanting so that you're not just growing tomatoes. But if you are and you want to rotate this for the second year or consecutive years, a good choice is always legumes. Beans and peas are excellent choices because they enrich the soil with the nitrogen that they pull from the environment. You can also go with root vegetables like carrots and radishes because they can improve the soil structure and they tend to be less susceptible to tomato diseases. Your good go-to is brassicas like cabbage and broccoli because they really thrive after tomatoes. They can, help diversify the nutrients in the soil there. Alliums too, onions and garlic. You can plant them after tomatoes. You can plant them with tomatoes as well, but they deter pests that tend to affect tomatoes. But you want to avoid planting any other nightshades like peppers or eggplants immediately after tomatoes because you want to reduce the potential for disease because they are in the same family.
Brilliant answer, Rhonda-T. Dan or Meg, anything we want to add to that one?
I suppose you'll be. Most people I know with a small greenhouse would probably be growing in pots, I assume. And if you are, I would say just simply, make sure you replace the soil. That's a sort of easy thing. It doesn't mean you don't have to have tomatoes the next year. I think because Ian is growing commercially, of course, the sort of traditional crop rotation is more critical. But certainly, you wouldn't put the tomato back into the same soil. I'm assuming because most people I know don't have sort of beds in the soil, in a sort of, particularly in a very small greenhouse. But generally from a crop rotation point of view, you have to think about it that nightshades tend to be very sort of nutrient demanding. So you can think of it either as, well, can we put another family of a group of plants which are low, they can pick up any kind of residual fertility, so very low in their nutrient demand, or do we build up the fertility again, maybe with a nitrogen fixing crop, a legume, and then add some compost on, and then you can go to another heavy feeding family like courgettes or curcumin, that sort of thing. So lots of options.
Brilliant. Now, Meg, you say tomato, and I say tomato. Are you growing them in Canada?
Yes, we are. And I don't have a greenhouse setting, but outdoors, I sometimes do end up planting my tomatoes in the same spot one year after another. I will try to rotate to some degree, but tomatoes really like very sunny spots. And sometimes I don't have that many spots in my garden that I can give that will have sufficient sunlight. So I find that even though I would like to rotate my tomatoes every year, sometimes I will end up planting tomatoes in the same spot, or if I move the tomatoes out, I might end up planting another nightshade family there that really likes sunlight. So I would say that in an ideal world, we want to rotate, and sometimes that might just be moving something a few feet over. In the case of a greenhouse, it might be having tomatoes on one side one year and on the other side the other year. But in the case of Lucy's scenario, if Lucy is able to grow well in the greenhouse in terms of tomatoes and also able to grow tomatoes well outdoors, well then do the flip-flop. But if tomatoes only grow for you well in your greenhouse, then I would say, you might consider planting more than 1 year in a row with your tomatoes, but you'd really want to keep an eye out for disease. If you ever see any disease coming in, then you're really going to want to take a break from it to make sure that the disease doesn't build up.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, I love growing cucumbers in my greenhouse. Oh, cucumber. I love juicing a cucumber. So I'm loving this, and you're all wonderful. Absolutely. We've got a lot of questions to get through. So maybe if someone's given a good answer, we'll move on to the next one, because Dr. Nair sent 20. I mean, we're not getting into all of his today, but God bless him. Here we go, Maestro. What do we got? Oh, it's Amanda. What suggestions do the panelists have for growing strong, healthy seedlings? I tried growing seedlings in my house, but they didn't look as nice as the ones I can buy. I'd like better results this year, wouldn't we all, Amanda? So, Rhonda-T, you were talking about seedlings. Do you want to start us off here, Rhonda-T?
Sure. Seedlings need light, and for the most part, they need warmth. Depending on the seedlings, on the seeds, and those are the biggest considerations. There are ways to grow seedlings without additional heat, but light is something that's very, very important. And I think that once your seedlings have germinated, and they're poking out and saying hello to the world, they really need some good 14 to 16 hours of light a day. And unfortunately, most people's windowsills just don't have that kind of light. So adding supplemental light is really important. And I feel like once that is achieved, most of the seedling leggy, thin issues will be rectified, because light is huge.
Yep. No, that's absolutely true. So the old trouble and strife, the old wife's gone to Florida to David Avocado Wolf's conference, and she's having a great time. So she's sending me pictures. It's 27 degrees. She's in a bikini. It's all right for her. Anyway, she put all of the seedlings from our utility room. She put them all in the greenhouse, because when she left, it was 20 degrees. Anyway, we've had Arctic weather in sunny Suffolk recently, literally Arctic. Oh, my golly, it's been cold. So I'm going to pray. I'm going to add to your answer there, Rhonda-T, prayer for those seedlings to survive. I'll tell you what, we're going to move on, Maestro, because, Meg, I'm going to get you to answer this one, because I think you probably, if that's all right, Maestro, we're going to go next question. It's Janice. The spring is here. Yes, it is. But my compost isn't quite ready. It's partially decomposed, but not as much as I'd like. Can I still use it? Or what else can I use in my veganic garden instead? Janice. So, Meg, what should Janice do?
So one thing I would say is to take a look at what do we mean when we say that our compost isn't quite ready? If we're looking at our compost and it really just looks like still like a lot of rotting food, there's, you know, a bunch of kind of squishy apples, and if you pick it up and it smells, you know, like a little bit like rotting food, then that would be too early to use really in any context. But if you're getting to the point where it has turned brown and it's starting to look, you know, a little bit like soiled, but there's still some chunks amongst the brownness, then I would say that, you know, that would still be compost that's quite young compost, but I would use that for squash, and I would use it for cucumbers. I might even use it for my tomatoes. Also, you can use kind of half-finished compost, even stuff that's actually quite far from being finished, in a lasagna gardening setup. If you ever decide you're going to create a lasagna garden with different layers of leaves and straw and organic matter, if you had compost that was kind of halfway ready, you know, you could use it in that context and it would continue decomposing. And also, just to mention, sometimes when we look at the top of our compost pile, we might find that it's very far from being ready. But if we really take a pitchfork, get it all out, and look at the bottom, sometimes we actually do find that there's some really nice compost a lot farther down. But if you're in a scenario where the spring's here, your plants are getting hungry, and you don't have any compost that's ready, and sometimes people find themselves in that scenario, one thing I would say is to be a bit patient with the compost. It might be ready in a couple of months, and you can add it to your garden then if that's the case. In the meantime, you can do things like turn it more regularly, get some more oxygen in there to help it break down. And one thing we like to use in our own garden, especially if we're short on compost, is we sometimes use alfalfa, which is in the UK typically called lucerne, and that is it's a legume that you can often buy essentially as a powder form or as pellets. If you're getting the pellets, make sure they're 100% alfalfa without anything else added. And that's something that we can add. You know, for example, if I'm planting a tomato, I can add a handful of that to the planting hole, and that's a really easy switch if you don't have compost that's ready.
Brilliant. Absolutely. The other thing I've been doing is get out my old sieve, you know, and just get some pure stuff. Maestro, we've got a question now. Someone knew you were going to be on, Than. Here we go. Question for Than. It's our very own Juliet. She's in Florida. We have planted a range of fruit trees, raspberries, currants, and herbs in our school forest garden. What more unusual plants would you recommend? And you can check out the video, by the way, about what we've done at the forest garden. It's been an amazing thing. The kids love it. It's a space of peace and abundance. But we've got some quite regular things, Than. So what else could the children plant?
Well, from the point of view of designing a forest garden, good thing to think about is what layers of that system are still missing. So if you've obviously put some fruit trees on, so you've got your canopy, you might have an understory, you'll have some herbs. A lot of herbs are herbaceous perennials, so you've got some sort of an understory. So how about perhaps some ground cover plants and some edible climbers, that sort of thing? So that's one angle you could go down. So edible climbers, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, maybe a kiwi if you don't have, or like a Caucasian spinach, Herblitsia tamnoides, chocolate vine, there's loads. Hops, you can eat hop shoots, so you can got to get creative and exciting. And also it varies, so it exposes children to types of nutrition or thinking about different parts of plants that they wouldn't be used to eating. Ground cover, if that's something that you're missing, for example, sweet violets, for example, good mineral-rich edible leaf, salad leaves, ground ivy for herb teas, lemon balm also spreads in many, loads of options. In terms of my particular thing for generally for forest gardens is nutrition. That's why I'm obviously with schools and kids, you've got to think about harvest time. Does something fruit in the middle of the sort of term time that would work well? Is it nice and attractive? But we're so depleted minerally in terms of most of the food. So most of the conventional fruits and vegetables that we're eating, even the ones that we're planting in a forest garden, like common sort of fruits, you can have lots of varieties, but nutritionally they're not as. This is my thinking, and I'm sure probably some research at it. My gut feeling is that they're less nutritionally rich than wilder, less cultivated fruits, because we've bred them to be juicy, not because they're inherently healthy. So eating things that are less cultivated. So fruits wise, what about some dogwood fruits like Cornus Kusa? I mean, loads. Sea buckthorn, salt bushes for your leaves. I mean, we can go on, but it's an exciting journey, and I think to change kids' palates, it's such an important work. I do not work with many children, but I'm sure there's fantastic people who are working horticulture and work with the kids, and those are the people who should be looking into these plants and seeing what they can introduce.
Beautiful.
Great service.
Wonderful. Yes, Meg, please go for it, darling.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out for haskap's, which is a bush that makes an edible berry. One of the cool things about haskap's, well, not only are they higher in antioxidants than blueberries, but they also produce earlier than strawberries. So if you're looking at something that might actually, produce not during the summer vacation, but actually during the school session, and it's also just a wonderful, wonderful berry bush for pollinators. It gives flowers before almost anything else does. So if you wanted to get some super early flowers in your garden so that the kids can learn more about attracting biodiversity, that would be a good one too.
Yeah, one of the considerations we had to have, because we got donated a lovely gooseberry bush, but all the spikes, like the sea buckthorn, there's certain plants we just, because of the safety, they can't really mess with some of those spikes. But I tell you what, the forest garden is looking beautiful. It's looking beautiful. It took me 6 weeks of work. And they say a garden's never finished, but what a legacy for those children, because they're growing up, learning about veganic growing, learning about this, stacking system. We did get a grapevine, Than, and we got a thornless blackberry. But I like those other ideas of climbers. Thank you for the answer. Maestro, next question, please. Georgie. I'm a new gardener. I'd really like to plant something in my garden soon, but there's still some light frosts at night. What can I plant when the weather is still a bit chilly? Okay. Panel, what are we thinking? What could Georgie put in? Rhonda-T, you're muted, my dear.
I am muted. There we go.
That's right. You're not
anymore. Well, if it's really cool, there are some plants that really like the cool weather. Kale, of course, radishes, peas are wonderful to grow in the chilly weather. Spinach and cilantro. You can plant chives if you're looking for something that is perennial. Bok choy is another one. You can also use a frost cover. You can, just cover them lightly. A few degrees difference can make a world of difference to a young plant. And always keep in mind that waiting a little bit isn't bad. Sometimes plants will grow slower when it's cooler, and then when it warms, they'll grow quicker. So if you're hesitant to plant because you're not quite sure about the weather, wait a little bit, because typically planting something when it's cool and it grows slowly, and planting something when it's a little bit warmer, it will catch up. Yeah. So you're not really saving any time planting too early, but if you'd really like to get out there, kale, radishes, peas, spinach, those are the plants that you want to start from the beginning.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rhonda-T. I'll tell you what, I'm going to move on just so we can try and rattle through these next questions. I'm being sent them, guys, just as I speak. More are coming in. Matt, how does mycorrhizal fungi work? Do I need to add it to my garden? Now, before you answer this, panelists, I'll just tell you a strange experience. I walk out where we live here, right? Just walk out of the drive, and there's a packet of mycorrhizal fungi on the little track here. I mean, where did it come from? I've got no idea. No one bought it. It was just there. So anyway, anyone got any expertise with this? The wonders of fungus.
One thing I can say is that mycorrhizal fungi will often just show up when you least expect it, and will often show up on its own. It's a bit of an exception that in Giles' case, it seems to have showed up in a packet. But if you're in a situation where you have a garden where the soil was disturbed, mycorrhizal fungi are generally out there in the air as spores. At some point, they're going to land in your garden. So you don't necessarily need to purchase a packet of them and add them. But if somebody is growing in containers, you very well might want to purchase a package of mycorrhizal fungi. Or if somebody's growing in an area where the soil was really disturbed and you want to speed up the process of getting that mycorrhizal fungi back. But basically, what mycorrhizal fungi is it is a type of fungi that goes in association with plant roots. So basically you'll have a plant root and then the mycorrhizal fungi will kind of attach to it and spread out. And the mycorrhizal fungi are going to share nutrients with your plants. They're going to share water with your plants. They're going to help your plants resist stresses better and resist other types of like fungal diseases that might be present. And so mycorrhizal fungi are very beneficial. The vast majority of plants are going to associate with them. But one of the main things that we can do to promote mycorrhizal fungi is not disturb our soil and make sure that we have living roots in our soil year round. So if somebody takes all of their plants out in the fall and then they turn their soil and there's nothing there and their soil has nothing living in it, that's really going to decimate the mycorrhizal fungi populations. And then they have to kind of, try to start again and try to get back in the swing of things. Whereas if you don't disturb your soil and you're not, you're minimizing digging, you're not going in and tilling, and if you have some permanent plants, something like strawberries or chives, or sage or something like that's there with a permanent root system as a perennial, that will stay in association with the mycorrhizal fungi year round, so that next spring or this spring when you're planting something like tomatoes or eggplants or beans or something like that, the mycorrhizal fungi populations are already really, really strong.
Yeah, that is a great tip. Fantastic. Okay, guys, we've probably got time for 2 more questions. So, Than, I'm going to give this one to you, my friend. Maestro, please. I'd like to grow a garden that combines rewilding and food production. What can I grow that will create food and shelter for wildlife and also some food for me, Anthony? What can Anthony grow, Than?
So many possibilities. So my go-to would be, because I'm perennial guy, I like an edible hedge, because it would provide fantastic habitat for so many organisms and then insect species as well. So something like, what about the tree leaves that you can copy? So lime, we put a hedge comprising lime and various actually herbal mixes actually. So we put the beech leaves are also edible.
Yes.
Xanthosxylum for prickles, because the wife does some herbalism work. So loads of possibilities there. The other thing is, of course, even letting things go to seed. So much of the time we sort of cut a plant's life cycle short. So even by letting it complete its life cycle, the seeds, different parts of the plant will become food for something else. So that might be food for birds, for example. The other thing is things like, if you notice things with sort of long flowering stem, which could be hollow. So we've got some sedum in our garden, and that forms a nice hollow stem when it flowers. We eat the leaves as a succulent sort of salad leaf. And that hollow is the habitat for ladybirds, which we need for our to predate on aphids, for example, ladybirds and ladybird larvae. So yes, lots of possibilities. And of course, stinging nettle, a great habitat plant as well as food, right? Probably the most nutrient dense wild plant in these isles. So yeah, lots of options.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Thank you. Now, Rhonda-T, we've got a question for you. Let's just see. Here we go. It's Johnny. What can I grow in my garden that would be a good vegan source of protein? Johnny's into fitness and he wants to start growing protein, because I've heard a rumor, ladies and gentlemen. We even wrote a song about it. Where'd you get your protein from if you don't eat meat? And then Juliet's line, well, there are thousands of nutritious plants that you can eat. Rhonda-T, I've set you up.
Thank you for that. That was awesome. What can you grow in your garden that would be a good vegan source of protein? Everything. Everything. Legumes, beans, broad beans, broccoli. It's more difficult to think of what wouldn't be a good source of protein. But your legumes, your brassicas, they're all amazing. And with broad beans and beans that you dry, that you can store them. And I honestly, I'm hard pressed to think of something that wouldn't be a good source of protein.
100%. Just get growing, Johnny. Just get growing and eat plants. Yeah, Meg, go for it, darling.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention squash seeds and pumpkin seeds too. Squash seeds, we'll take the squash and we'll turn it into delicious baked squash or squash soup. But those seeds in there, if you just put a little bit of oil on them and some kind of spice, put them in the oven. And we actually I've been snacking on these. Oh. These are pumpkin seeds. And these are they're called like naked pumpkin seeds or kind of semi-naked pumpkin seeds where they don't really have that white shell around them. So you can actually take them and eat them raw, and they're wonderful.
Seeds. I mean, I think sometimes like seeds. I'm just in awe of a seed or a berry. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm getting more into it. Like with my compost, I'm just getting more into doing it. Well, would you believe we have come to the end of the show? Apologies. For all the people that sent in your questions we didn't get time to, but I'd just like to finish just with a little 30-second, guys, your message to the world. Van, we'll start with you, brother.
Sorry, I missed that. Message to the world.
Your message to the world or the message to people listening?
Yeah, get growing, live lightly, and live and let live, which is the philosophy that the whole world needs to subscribe to. Beautiful. If we need to get through this difficult time.
Yeah, you're right there, mate. Rhonda-T. Oh, here we go. Just want to say thanks for joining the Learn Vegan. I was able to recommend to an allotment holder the use of alfalfa pellets. Yes, rather than using horse manure. Ooh, no, we don't want that. Rhonda-T, your message to the world, my dear.
Do the least harm. Do the least harm in everything you do, and get growing. Get out there. Put your hands in the soil and grow some things. Grow a pea shoot, grow a tomato, grow some garlic. It doesn't matter. Get out there and do it, and your life will be fuller for it.
Certainly will. And finally to you, Meg.
Yeah, on the same note, I mean, spring's here and it's time to get growing. And I would say, don't necessarily be too attached to the outcome. Sometimes we'll grow something and we're intending to feed ourselves and we end up feeding wildlife, and that's awesome too. Or sometimes a plant dies back and it ends up feeding the soil life. So just getting in there, trying things, and the more you observe your plants, the more you kind of pay attention to nature, the more you're going to have success over the years. But for the moment, just get started and give it a go.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Well, on behalf of the wonderful panel, on behalf of the maestro, Dan Graham, who's behind the scenes making it all happen, I'd like to thank everyone so much for being part of Veganic Gardeners Question Time. Moving forward, we're really looking forward to doing more interviews with people on the Von map so we can get a bit deeper into some of the subjects. But also, I think it's very important because we're being sent so many questions, have the opportunity where we can get expert answers. So please do check out everyone's websites, everyone's social medias, Rhonda-T, Meg and Than. Support them, support me, support Von. And remember, it's green, it's free, it's cruelty free. Don't panic, it is veganic. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and take care.